Hello, everybody. How's it going today? Happy Wednesday. It's Connie, and I'm live. It's 2 o'clock. And right before I went online, I was running around and like changing all my clocks over here because I never did change my clocks, and it made me wonder what time it really was. Oh, this time change is hard. Anyway, today I thought it would be fun to just play with some watercolor pencils and color some images. Hi, Christy. How's it going? I am turning on my comments so that I can see everybody's comments. It's kind of fun to actually be able to read them. Anyway, so here's the deal. I got out a whole bunch of just open image stamp sets, and I just stamped a whole bunch of different images, and I haven't even had a chance to play with these cute dinosaurs yet. Anyway, so I got out all this stuff, and as I was stamping, one of the things that happened is with this set right here, and both this image and this image, this is one of the cling stamps, but both of these images, when I stamped them, got a little halo. It's a little hard to see. It's right there. You can kind of see, and right there around this one. That drives me crazy. It's the only real issue that I have with cling stamps. I have tons of rubber stamps, right? And what happens is you ink them up, and you know, you get a little ink on the edge. Can you see that? And when you stamp it onto your cardstock, you can get what I call a halo. So especially with rubber stamps where you might rock them a little more, you might get like the ink transfer over. So what I like to do, and what I wanted to show you today, is how I deal with this, because this is like one of my most annoying things, is when the manufacturer doesn't cut the image close enough. Now, if you cut the image too close, you'll undercut it and it won't stamp right. So you need to cut straight up and down and closer to the image so that you can cut off that offensive part that's going to drive you crazy every single time you use your stamp. And you do not need to follow all the little intricate ins and outs of a stamp for it to stamp well. You can just make, chops. And the idea is to just get close enough to the image without undercutting it. Like, you don't want to, if you tilt your blade like you're going to fussy cut, you're going to have a problem because you're going to cut into that foam that supports your image. It needs to be straight up and down, and straight cuts is best, okay? And so I just thought I'd show you that because it's been a little while since I've had one have that problem. And this one, you can already see I chopped. It haloed around here, and I just chopped that excess off. Don't be afraid to do that. If your stamps are ones that are always going to give you a halo, you will never use them. They are too much of a hassle to use, and you just won't want to use them. You'll be like, ugh, but that's red rubber. I don't want to use that because of that inking problem. It's so hard. So don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Worst case scenario is you have to, well, the worst case scenario is that you would cut into your image. That would not be good. And I don't use my beautiful, wonderful paper scissors for that. I use a regular pair of shears to do stuff like that. I have some like Tim Holtz scissors that work really good for that too. They're really, really sharp, but make a clean cut. Yay. So, okay, so see, look at this. 2 12 by 12 pages full of water images to color. And I'm fast at coloring with marker, but some of these images are so big that they really take a lot of your marker ink. And so that's why I thought a lot of times I reach for the watercolor pencils. Now this is the main watercolor pencils. It has like all the basic colors. I'm going to tell you what colors are in here so that you know. This is Real Red, Calypso Coral, Pumpkin Pie, Daffodil Delight, Old Olive, Blue, Fresh Freesia, Melon Mambo, Pecan Pie, Early Espresso, Basic Gray, Black, and White. And what's nice about that is that you basically get the rainbow colors, right? So you can do with just that. But then I wanted some of the secondary or darker shades. And so I got the second assortment of Cherry Cobbler, Flirty Flamingo, Cajun Craze, Crushed Curry, Granny Apple Green, Garden Green, Coastal Cabana, Balmy Blue, Night of Navy, and Gorgeous Gray. Now I am to the point where I'm tired of storing these in their little boxes. I don't love storing these in these little boxes, but it helps me be able to tell you what's in what. So that's why I've been keeping them in here. And you can kind of tell which ones I've used the most. Black is an often used color, and I use a lot of this Crushed Curry color. Those are both really good shading colors. And when you have watercolor pencils, you really want to try to not keep a super sharp point. So I just sharpened this blue one, for example, and before I would use that, well, let's just use it and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so let's just say I'm going to color this cup. One thing I want to do is scribble off one side and make a little wedge so that I'm not getting a line as I color. You really want, I'm going to zoom in a bit. You'll have to tell me if I go off camera. But it really does help to be able to see this a little closer up. And what I like to do is start near an edge where I know it would be darker. The image would be darker. And so if I start near the edge and kind of do like an outline, and then I make little circles or real fine wash of color across the whole image, it helps you to fill it in without getting lines. Like, you do not want lines. If I'm on this glass surface and if that feels too, like, I'm getting lines, it's too much, sometimes all you have to do is take some cardstock or a magazine or something and put under it, and that will give you a smoother finish because it gives your pencil a little cushion. And then, so I'm just going to go ahead and finish filling in this cup. I have a little list of things I want to show you here. The other part is after it's basically filled in, now I want to really think about what would be shaded. And you don't have to get all crazy with the light here and the light there. You just know this cup is round. It's darker on the back than in the front. So this part right here would be the darkest, right? Because it's curved and you want it to look curved. And so anywhere it's going to look curved, you want it darker, right? And it's going to go from dark to light, from dark to light. So I'm pushing and lightening up, okay, as I go. Pushing down and lightening up as I go. Putting a little more color where it would be darker. Okay, the other thing is this back here would be darker also because it's behind everything. So that's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. Now, there's a couple ways to actually color in your image, and one of them is a blender brush. And a blender brush, a lot of people use blender brushes. It's basically like a clear marker material, and you basically just go over your colored pencils. These are watercolor pencils. It doesn't work as well with normal colored pencils. But you see what I'm doing here is I'm going over the lines and it's smoothing it out. So, and then you scribble it off and you can go to another color. You just don't want to transfer the blue into yellow or something, right? Some people have multiple colors of blending brushes. So you can see what my colored pencil looked like before right here, and then after I used the blender tool on it. I think it takes a lot of time to use a blender tool. I have a tendency instead to use a water brush or a paintbrush, and there's a lot of different kinds of paintbrushes. If you use a giant paintbrush, they hold a lot of water, and so you have to be a little bit careful about, these are used more to make big washes, and I'll show you something with that in just a minute. So the big brushes save for other techniques, and then the small brushes though, I have a cup of water here. I just have a cup of water, and I have a paper towel, and I'm just gonna dampen. When you dampen your brush, you don't want a lot of water in your brush. You just don't. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna tap it onto a paper towel. It's damp. I think you can barely feel it. Like if you tap it like there, it's way too wet, right? Way too wet. And then if you do a real light tap, it'll be the perfect wetness. And then you just go in, start with the light section and move to where it's going darker. And then you can rinse, tap, and smooth that color out even more. And so I just want to show you that kind of up close. Sorry, I'm off camera again. So the right hand side of the cup over here, I used the brush, and over here I used the blending tool. And that's great. It gives you a nice look. I'm gonna scooch out just a little bit so I'm not going out of my camera so much. And so I'm just gonna go over the areas to make them as smooth as possible. Now, something you can do, let's just say this isn't dark enough, whatever, I need it darker. You can let that dry, you can hit it with your heat tool, and then you can go over it again and add more pigment, or you can take your brush and add some water, and you can go right onto your brush and you're picking up pigment directly onto your brush. Now this doesn't have very much water on a very heavy pigment, so it's going to be dark, right? So you can go right back over that area where you feel like it is not dark enough. And you can always add a little more water to even that out. So did you see how I added that darkness to that side where I just felt like it needed more? The other thing you can do is you can make a palette. Like here, when I scribbled this off, you can see I've got a whole bunch of pigment on my paper. I'm going to dab a little water into it. I'm going to pick that up, and then I'm going to use this like a palette. Now, this is my least favorite thing to do on here, because when you use your paper as a palette, you lose your pigment into the paper. So if you're gonna do this, one thing that's really great for this, let me just clean this off, is to use like your silicone mat. Mine's filthy because I keep my tools on it, but let me just kind of wipe out one of the little shells here. But you can scribble into a mat, onto silicone, and get pigment. And then when you add your water to it, you can pick that up and use it like just like you would with your inks or something. You're picking up pigment. So that's an option too. I a lot of times do the direct to the tip kind of thing if I need a darker color. Now, the other trick that I really love to do is to grab my marker for the darkness. Like I use the watercolor for the big image, and then I add a marker. So let me grab my marker. I have the blends and shades here because I'm not sure which color I'll use. Let's try, that's pretty dark. Let's try this one. Let's see which one I'm gonna like better. Okay, so if I use my marker and go around the edge where I want the darkest color, what is nice about that is you're using your marker to give you some depth, but you're not using up all of your color from your marker. So you get that nice kind of outline with the darkness without having to keep adding layer after layer after layer of watercolor. So that's just a trick that I like to do. Okay, so now I'm going to, I want to color in the coffee. Let's just use, I like to use a couple of different colors of brown when I'm, like sometimes when I'm doing stuff like this. So I'm in a real light, do an all over brown. This is pecan pie. Okay. And then I'm going to use early espresso, and I'm going to put it on the edge here, almost like a shade, right? So now I'm using two colors, and you can see it's pretty dramatic. It's a pretty dramatic chopped look. But if I grab if you use your blending pen on this, you need to start here where it's light and move into the darkness. I think a blending pen is really limiting you in how you do your color. So I will start where I want it a little lighter, and I will move into the darker area with my water. And I don't have hardly any water on my brush, so it's not swirling around. So I'm gonna put a little more water on my brush. I'm gonna move my water closer. And tap. And then I'm just gonna slowly kind of move that color into where it's lighter. I don't want it to be like a line. Your coffee doesn't look like a line, right? The issue with this cardstock, of course, is that it's just plain old white cardstock. It is not watercolor paper, so if you add more and more and more water to it, it's gonna bubble up. You're gonna get the surface of the paper kind of, it'll pill on you a little bit. And so it's important to not use tons of water. And if you really feel like, okay, I need more going on in here, let it dry a little bit before you move on. Okay, so there's a coffee cup. What else should I do? Should I do a birthday cake or something? I think what I need to do is cut this. Hold on a minute. So my images aren't quite, so let's do a butterfly. Those are more fun colors. I'm trying to cut my images down a little bit so they don't take up my whole screen. Okay. Okay, so let's do some butterfly colors. I'm going to start light with a pale yellow, which is Daffodil Delight. And I'm just gonna scribble some color here. I want it all over, but I don't want it to look like lines. It is, even though watercolor is very forgiving, I think that it's very, it's harder to get out a line. Like if you made a line on a paper and you were trying to, you know, use your brush. I'm going to switch to a water brush just because it's easier for me. But if you use water on there, you can do this and see, you still see a line. There's still a line in there, and you're working it and you're working it and you're working it, trying to get that line out, but you still see a line. Excuse me. So it's easier if you just have a nice gentle color like this that you can work through and you don't have lines. So that's why I like my watercolors to look worn down like this. I like my pencils to have like worn down look. Okay, so we have our yellow. This is pumpkin pie, which is like orange basically. And I'm gonna overlap just a little onto the yellow and put some onto the white. My camera's jiggling. I'm sorry if you can see that. That's weird. But I'm not being too careful. So you don't have to be super careful necessarily. That's not the issue. But and then I need a darker color. Maybe I'll do red on the outside. I could do a purple or a blue. So I'm just coloring this in. So while I'm coloring, I just want to let you know that we only have, I think, a couple weeks left of that 30-day window or whatever for the videos that I've had, the live versions that I've had since February. And so I uploaded all of those to Facebook. And I just want you to know that those are, YouTube, those are on YouTube now. And thank you so much for joining my channel, because it really helps me to have some followers there. Okay, so here I have my yellow. I've dabbed most of the water off. I'm starting in the boldest color, and I'm going to do both sides because I like that yellow. And then I'm going to slowly work that orange and yellow together and mix them so that it looks nice and smooth. And tap, tap. And now I'm going to go from the orange into the red. I'm just smoothing out my brush strokes. And if your brush gets too dry, just wet it again, tap it off, and you can keep going. Now, if you're not sure how wet it is, just tap it on your hand. You know, tap it here so you can feel how wet it is, and you'll get to know when it's too much, too wet, too much. Okay, so I really like how this looks. This butterfly looks great, but I feel like it needs some boldness. So here is my cherry cobbler, and I'm going to, my paper's still a little bit wet. And so when I put pigment down onto that wet paper, you can feel it drag. It doesn't want to transfer, so it's better to let it dry. But I'm just going to show you here. I get into a hurry. I think I'm going to add some color to his body. Okay, tap, tap, and gonna just blend that. It's very much like, you know, when you're using several colors of Copics or something, and the idea is to blend the colors, you know, blend the colors together. And then, like, I like that a lot. I like it just the way it is. It's beautiful. And I can just leave it the way it is. I can put a shimmer brush over it, or, you know, whatever. There's, you know, you can make these any color you want. What's really nice is now that it's colored in, I can go back with my dies or whatever and cut it out, or I can fussy cut it, and it'll be great. See, I have a line right there, so I want to work that out. Just adding a little bit of water. Sorry, I have you off camera, on camera, off camera, on camera. Okay, how about the dinosaur? I think the dinosaur would be kind of fun to color. And I think I'm gonna make him purple. I could have made him green, I guess. This is Fresh Freesia, and I am basically just going to, you can tell I've not used this color very much because I got a point on it. I'm going to scribble that down a little bit. That way I get fewer, because I'm getting, the way I know that is on his nose, you can see I'm getting pencil streaks. I'm getting streaks. Watercolor's very forgiving, but I really would rather have just a shading. So I always start with just a general shade over the whole body. And then I go back over where I think it would be darkest, like his leg right here. And I really give some pressure, put down more pigment there. I think he'd have a little shade right there. A little on his belly. Under his arms, under his chin. And of course his spots, but I may do something different with his spots. So there is that. Now the other purple that I have is really bold, and it is the gorgeous grape. And you can see there is a dramatic change in color between these two. And so be light. Use a light touch. So I'm just going to real light go over that shaded area again. Like that, okay? And then I think I will make his spots that darker purple. I think his little, I don't know what they're called. They're not horns. They're not fins. What are those called, everybody? The back of a dinosaur. Oh boy, that's terrible that I don't know, but I don't. Okay, and then I think I'm going to shade his belly really light with the darker color. So I'm going to hold this up so you can see my scribbling. It doesn't look like much right now. I've got the two colors in there. And now I'm going to get my brush, and I'm just going to start light and go into where it's darker. All right, ready? I'm messing with my camera again. All right, I want to make sure I'm in camera. All right, so basically I'm going to start light here, and I'm going to go into here where I have that color, and I'm going to move it around and blend it together. I have hardly any water on my brush because I keep putting it in the water cup and dabbing it on my paper towel over and over again. So I do not have very much water on my brush. But when I go into an area where there's more color, you can definitely see that it's blending out, right? All right, so I'm gonna go under here and get that blended through. I think I'm gonna go over his belly while I'm here too. Rinse, tap. Now I'm gonna do his nose. It's basically all that pinky purple color, but then around the edge I added a little extra. So I'm blending this pink out, pinky purple color, the freesia color. And now I'm ready to go into the dark purple, okay? All right, so I'm basically just gonna put a little touch of water to each of those areas just to blend out my pencil strokes. That's all I'm doing there. And by doing that, I do pick up just a little bit of that pigment. So now that I've done that, I can touch somewhere else. I got that purple color on my brush. I can touch somewhere else where there should be purple color and add a little more. See how I'm using that as a palette? Isn't he cute? Oh my gosh, he's cute. All right, I think that looks really good. I'm not sure I would need to darken that up anymore, but I could totally go in here with a little bit of a purple marker. Let me see. How about pink violet? I don't know how close I am with pink violet. Pretty close. All right, what a good guess. Ew, but that doesn't work so much. Yeah, so the pink color I could do. All right, so I can just real lightly tap a little color onto the edge. And what you see, it looks like I spent a ton of time shading my watercolor. Now see, this is such a cheater thing to do, but it helps me not use so much of my marker color on these bigger images, right? He's cute. Wow, I really like this. Now I got to figure out what I'm going to use him on. Some card or something. Okay, I'm going to hold this up. Kind of show you what I did with the marker. And if you don't like that super strict line right there, you can go in with your Fresh Freesia and, you know, pick up some of that pigment. Sorry, I'm on a camera again. And blend that a little bit. And if you ever get too much on there, like if you feel like there's too much, all you have to do is add more water. Like if it's too much, you take your brush, add a little fresh water, and put it on there, and it will lighten up your watercolor. It's like an eraser. So he turned out cute, right? He's adorable. What else should I color? Should we try a balloon? A balloon would be interesting because they're round. Round is hard. Okay. All right. So let's use a color we haven't used yet. How about pink? This Melon Mambo. And I have two colors. I have Flirty Flamingo and Melon Mambo. This is the reason why I like to keep all of my watercolors in like rainbow order instead of separated into two boxes, is because it's much easier to do a light and a dark when you have the light and the dark. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do is put pink over the whole thing. Now, I could just shade with this pink. And if I only have one pink, I just add layers of this pink. So you can see I'm outlining the balloon because the lightest part of the balloon is gonna be like right here. So the lightest part of the balloon is gonna be like the front rounded part. So I want it to be shaded around the edge so it looks like it's darker back there. And I could leave it like this, but I like the idea of adding a little bit of extra color where it's darker. And that's why I like to have more than one of each shade. And this is also where it's really nice to have markers, right? Okay, so in my water, tap. I'm gonna start where it's light, where my highlight's gonna be, and I'm gonna move towards the edge, and I'm going to slowly blend that edge, just like that. And okay, good. So you basically have pink all over, and you obviously need some more shading around the outside. You could let that dry and we could do a different color. Let's do one that's Coastal Cabana. So I'm gonna color this one. I don't use very much, so I'm getting scribble marks. I'm smushing it down so I have a nice, like, flat looking tip. Hard to see without my camera focusing, but there you go. And what that does instead is it gives you that smoother look. All right, and then I'm gonna put the darker around the edge. Like that. And then here I go with my water. Tap, tap, tap. You don't want tons of water. And I'm gonna start here where it's light, and I'm gonna go work around the edge. Water, go in the middle where it's light, and push into the edge. Okay, now I'm ready to darken up the edge of this one. Now that it's drier, I can go in with my pencil again and add a little of that. And I'm just gonna lightly go over it. I like that. So I just did the pink edge over again. And then let's do another layer of this. The other thing you can do if you don't have two colors is you can shade with a little something darker, a brown or a black or a gray. Gray works pretty well too. So I'm just going over this with a brown, obviously going out of the lines and everything. It looks bizarre because I'm shading with a brown. But when you blend that out, what it does instead is it gives you a darker shade of that green. And if you don't, like if you have a line that you don't like, add just plain water to it and scribble on it like an eraser. Like if you get too much pigment, it doesn't take much. Like here where I went over the line, I can erase that with water. I just need to go over it with clean water a couple of times. And it will remove it. There. Better, right? Better. Okay. Or I can, again, use my palette and add. So that's kind of fun. The other thing that you can do on these to really make them look more real is get out your Jelly Roll, your white pigment, white ink pen, and let me see if that's dry enough. And then you can create your highlight. Hard to do when it's a little bit wet. You need to do it while it's dry, but you can kind of see it makes it look more real. Sorry, I'm playing around a lot and it's messing with my camera. Okay, so here we have our coffee cup again, and let's just add, maybe we add, you know, a little line in here. One thing about Jelly Roll pens, they really do work better if you use a super light touch. Like if you're not, if you don't push down really hard, you get better ink flow. But you can see that just adding a little bit of highlight to that really does help. You could use your white watercolor pencil, but it's not a light watercolor pencil is better for just lightening a color than using it as white. Okay, there was something else I wanted to show you. Oh, I know. Okay. So, a couple of things. Let's just say that you are coloring this book, and then you are using your water and you forget to dab it off. You don't dab it off, and you get gobs of water on here, okay? And see how it like puddles, it like adds puddling. You can use your paper towel and tap it and get some of that excess water off so that your paper doesn't do like a big buckle on you. So that is one thing that you can do, almost like a water eraser. And then, what's the other thing I was going to show you? Oh, I wanted to show you how to splatter also. So first thing though, I think I'm going to color this little dog. And I have basic gray, it's just gray. And I'm gonna all over shade him with gray. You can see it's not super smooth. I did it really quick. You can see there's like streaky lines. So I'm going to turn it the other way and kind of do some circles. When I do animals, I like their face to be kind of light. It really threw me my coloring for a loop when I got a black dog. Black dogs are hard because you don't want to just color them black, because then you don't even see your stamped lines. So like if I was going to make him black, like Karen's little bean is black. He's so cute. So I have gray on here, and then I'm gonna add black to it. I gotta find my black. Sorry, I got colors all over the place now. All right, so basic black. And now I'm gonna add black just to a few areas like this. I'm not making him black all over. Do you see that? I'm making him gray, and it's gonna give an illusion of black, because this is what I've learned trying to color dogs that look like my black dog. Ugh, it's so hard. You have to make them dark gray, and you have to fool the eye into thinking that they're black. So I'm just gonna add a real pale, really light, darker shade here of the black, just like this. And if I remember right, Bean has a black nose. There we go. I think that's really cute. All right, now I'm gonna add my water and tap on the paper towel. I don't want it very wet. And I'm gonna start with his face, because that's my lightest section. And I'm gonna move out like that. Okay, and I'm gonna do his ear and his other ear, his forehead, and see how I added that black line there? I'm blending that edge of that black into his face, into his body. when I get to where I added those black lines, I don't want to leave it as a line. So you can see like here is a great example of that. Tap. I'm going to blend down. I'm going to blend that line out. I don't want a black line, right? Okay. He's looking good, but he's not quite black enough. So I'm going to take my black and I'm going to dab it onto the pencil. If you have Tim Holtz Distress crayons, this is how you use those as well, really well, is like you can lay them out and use them like a palette like this where you tap it and pick up ink. It's really cool. I won a bunch of Tim Holtz Distress crayons, and I had to learn how to use them. It's like after you get them, you don't want them to just lay there. The Distress watercolor, whatever. So I want that darker, and I like this dark, but I don't want it to be like, you know, a line. So I'm just going around and darkening that up. How you doing today, Barbara? I can honestly say this is the first Wednesday in a while where the weather has been so beautiful that it was hard to come in. It was gorgeous. Although I'm having trouble with this time change, and so I'm tired. I'm tired. Normally, the cats help me adjust, but I don't have any cats now. Sad. I'm trying to talk my daughter into getting cats. It's not working. All right, so there is my black dog. Do you see how he looks black, but he was really gray? He's gray. And I could keep messing with like this line and blend that line out a little better so that I don't have like a sharp line, but I think it looks pretty good. And cool. And then I can color in his party hat and his tongue. And the thing about when you're gonna do a new section is to make sure that you wait for the black and gray to dry, because sometimes if you add water here, the black will bleed into the new color. So there's that. Oh, he's cute. He's cute. All right, let's just pretend I colored that in, and let me show you splattering. Let's just say I'm trying to pick a color that will show up, not necessarily one that's beautiful, okay? Let's just say I want splatter on this, like if I cut this into a circle, I want to splatter. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add a bunch of water. Notice I'm not tapping it off. I'm making this really wet, and I'm just working it around. And then I'm going to take my brush and flick. And you can see there's like splatters all over it. Isn't it cute? This is where you would need to mask your dog if you don't want your dog to have splatters. Or if you're like me and you're just lazy, get your clean brush out and just remove anything that's splattered in an area you don't like, right? There we go. I don't want him to have a blue eyebrow. There we go. So I just remove anything that's splattered. Like if he had a big blue splatter on his tongue, for example, you know. The one thing about watercolor splatters is that they tend to bleed into your paper. So you don't want big, giant globs of water. So sometimes I'll take a paper towel like this one. As it dries, there we go. As that one dries, for example, it's just going to get bigger and bigger because it's going to bleed into the paper. So you can tap it with a paper towel and keep it the same size. Isn't he adorable? I think that turned out really nice. And I think that's really fun. I have, what other images do I have? Do you want to see any more? I have, I picked this specifically. I specifically chose these because I wanted to show you, you know, the roundness of things. And let me just get out that, I'm going to start with orange. And if you think about the middle of your pot being the lightest color of terracotta. Okay. And then let's go Cajun Craze. How's that? And then the edges would be darker. I'm blending into the orange and I'm adding brown to the side. Do you see that? Okay, I'm going to do the same over here. Brown to the side, and I'm going into the orange. And then the edges would be the very darkest, which means I need to add some shading to the dark edge. And then under each layer, there would be shading. Okay. Now I know, it's weird. I'm going to add pecan pie. Pecan pie is yet even darker. And I'm just going to put it like a line down the edge. It'll be my darkest. All right, now we're ready to watercolor it. And we're going to start tap, tap. And we're going to start in the center where we had our orange. And then we're going to move to the edges where we have the brown. And we're going to blend. And I'm blending towards the center. But I don't want the center to be the same color as the edge if I do it right. So I can add water and like an eraser and take some of that color off in the middle. Just like that. All right, and then I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to start in the center. And then I'm going to color to the edges. Just like that. Now, wet my brush, and now I'm going to go over those lines to blend them out a little bit because I don't want a stark line. And I don't want to use very much water because it'll buckle my paper. And then clean water to do my erasing. And I think that looks really good. If you were making a card, cool. If I was doing a scrapbook page, I'd probably do a little more work on this. So, and the way I would do that is by adding more shade. So I have my early espresso. I'm gonna pick up some pigment ink here, and I'm just gonna touch it to where I want my shading to be the darkest. And I'm trying to make it look dimensional, so under this lip would be dark, and then the edges would be dark because it's rounded. Just like that. And then I can use my plain water, clean water, to go over that edge if I don't want it to be so stark, you know, just blend it in a little more. But if you ever really look at things like this in real life, sometimes there are some harsher lines. Anyway, I think that looks amazing. I think that looks amazing. You saw how little work I did on that, right? So, you can do it. You can do it. It's not that bad. And then if I just made a few strawberries, that's cherry cobbler. What I do is assembly line everything. So I would color all the strawberries just like that. And then I would go back. This is real red. And then I would color in the rest just like that. And I would do that on every one, so that when I'm doing these, I'm not doing one at a time. It's so slow. It's so much easier to do assembly line coloring. So you can do all the red, then all the green, and all the, you know, and then you have images you can cut out and make a card with. I really like having I really love having like all of these all colored in a day like today where I kind of feel like coloring. Do a whole bunch all at once, and then I just have them, right? I need another green. I think, what is this one? Old Olive. I'm gonna just tap a little of that in there. So that is basically what I have for you guys today. I'm looking at my list. Oh, the one thing I didn't mention that really does help if you're feeling uneasy about watercoloring or coloring in general is to emboss your images first. If you heat emboss using powder, it helps keep your color into the spot, you know what I mean? But if you're gonna do a lot of blending of color, then I don't emboss, because the bumps of the heat embossing get in my way. But it's probably worth it to try it and see if you like coloring better that way, because look at that, adding two colors together that are really different. I like how that looks. All right. And it's been an hour, my goodness. So there is this one. And now I have some images to, I think I like the old olive on there first with this green on the top. I like that better. I think the leaves look more real or something. So, watercolors, any brand will work. I've done this with Crayola. They look great. The problem is when you use something like really cheap is that there's less pigment in it and you have to work a lot harder to get your color, and that makes it harder because it makes your paper, makes you have to use more pigment, more water. It messes with your paper more. It's easier to use just a little bit higher grade, student grade even. You don't have to buy like the highest level, the highest brand of watercolor pencils, although they're the most pigmented. So usually those are the easiest ones to color with, but honestly, I have Derwent, which is really high quality, expensive, and I have Prismacolor, and I have these are Stampin' Up brand. I have the old Close to My Heart brand ones, and these are fine. These work great. They're in the middle, and for the price, you know, you just can't beat the price. So, looking for my Real Red again. I'm using them like, all right, cool, cool, cool. The only thing I have left to do is add some shimmer pen to my butterfly, and I think that's all I was going to do today, because Wink of Stella is the same thing as the Close to My Heart shimmer pen, and look how beautiful. I feel like my thing needs squeezed out a little bit. Just know that shimmer pen is a liquid, so you can't get too sloppy with it, because you'll your watercolor will spread just a little bit. Look at that. Wow. Shimmer, shimmer. It's beautiful. It's cool looking. All right, that's what I have today. Friday, I have a scrapbook page, and I believe the new catalog will be available for demonstrators on the 17th, so I may have some updates, which will be really fun. All right, have a good afternoon.